What's up everyone, Maki here with another topic video. YouTube has announced that they're removing annotations. If you don't know what annotations are, they're basically those things to where everyone can put up like this little tiny box thing, and it's basically got a bunch of different options and stuff like that. It's 100% customizable. And basically you can put up a little box that has text in it, you can use it for end slates, you can use it for intros, or let's say you want to have like a video promo or something like that, you can end up using it for those. Now recently YouTube kind of introduced the whole card system, which is absolutely abysmal and absolutely hate it. I'll discuss why. And then they introduced end screens, which is kind of cool, but it doesn't fit every single purpose that you would actually need in that. Same thing with cards. They don't really cover much and they're kind of useless. But basically YouTube has actually announced that on May 2nd, I believe is the date, they said that the annotations will no longer be able to be created. Now old videos that already have them will still have them, and so it's not like you can't have them on your content anymore. Just basically everything created after May 2nd will no longer be able to use those. Now I'm already phasing it out of my videos just because, quite frankly, I don't want to have to deal with the whole backwards compatibility thing, because we all know that YouTube is not going to hold that sort of standard to that content. They're just gonna be like, oh yeah, by the way, annotations don't work anymore, which is gonna happen in like maybe a year, which is what they did last time with all the other sort of features they added into annotations, because annotations used to have a lot more features than it does now, and it was actually a lot better in my opinion. It had more customization. However, it does rely on Flash. We'll talk about that a little bit. But what is YouTube's reasoning? Well, YouTube says that basically annotations don't work on mobile, and basically YouTube is mostly watched on mobile now. Now that doesn't cover everyone's channels. My own channel specifically is only 17% on mobile, which given most channels, it's actually pretty low, because most people is at least 30% or higher. And mainly that comes from the fact that I am a PC reviewer, and so I review PC games, which means that basically everyone's going to be on PC when they watch my content, because that's what's kind of relevant to it. And so if you're on, you know, a mobile device, I guess it's sort of interesting, but the actual majority of that, as in like literally 10% of that, actually comes from one specific video I did about mobile. Woo! That makes sense, right? But most of my viewership comes from both tablet and desktop, which both supports annotations and Flash. And so basically it's run into a situation to where people like me, it doesn't really apply to them. Now, the other reason is the fact that they've said the annotations were used 70% less, and this mostly comes down to, once again, it's not going to fit every single person's type of content. And for a lot of like Let's Players and things like that, which is mainly where, you know, let's say Let's Players, vloggers, what else is on YouTube? I guess unboxing things. I don't really know the entire YouTube space, but regardless, there's a lot of types of content that are just going to be using the end screens because they're very, very easy to set up. I've started using them now. They're very, very simple. You just kind of click two buttons and you got it. And you don't really have to sort of manually set everything up. Like annotations are fairly difficult to set up. And so for the majority of content that doesn't require anything very specific, and you can kind of just be willy-nilly with that sort of thing, especially your end screens, then you can just be kind of like, hey, yeah, whatever, end cards work, that's fine. The problem is, annotations have a lot of sort of uses that are not going to be filled anymore, because annotations are still the only way to do mid sort of notifications. Let's say you need something to say, hey, you're a reviewer or something like that. Oops, I didn't see that laser coming. Let's say you're a reviewer or something like that, and you have a small mistake in your video. Making a video takes a long freaking time, and re-uploading a new one is not necessarily going to fit right in just fixing a small little error. So you can end up just having like an annotation or something like that. Or let's say, you know, you do an updated version of that, and then basically you can end up just leaving an annotation, which is actually what I did for one of my most popular videos. And I ended up leaving an annotation there, and it's actually gotten a lot of click-through, because they're like, oh, hey, there's an update on this whole issue. Let me just go ahead and see how it's going, because I'm actually interested in that information. And they're able to kind of carry over, and that's at the very beginning of the video, and I mention it throughout the video and end up making those annotations where it applies. And that's where they kind of get clicks from. However, with the card system, or the sort of end screen system, which if you don't know how those works, cards is a little tiny notification that shows up on the right side, and then the card or end screen system is one that basically it can only be in the last 20 seconds, or I believe it can be in the first 20 seconds as well, but basically it can only be in the last 20 seconds most of the time. You can only have one or the other, so if you have like it at the first 20 seconds, you can't actually put it at the end of the video. And cards are extremely limited. You can't even put your own website on there unless it is directly the website that you have linked. So basically you have to have an associated website. Like for annotations, for example, you have to have a business website that is linked with your account, which I do, and I have to use redirect links to end up going to Twitter and stuff like that. You can't do that with cards. You can't do that with end screens. You can't do that with anything else except for annotations. So you're no longer even going to be able to do that. And so basically, what are the benefits to this? None. actually. There are no benefits I can think of. The benefit would be that most people that should be using cards and should be, or not really cards, I think cards is a terrible system. So let's say nobody uses cards because nobody even clicks on them actually. If you go ahead and look at the analytics, nobody actually uses cards. It's kind of hilarious because cards are a thing, you have to click on them and then it pops up this thing that covers the entire video and then you have to click on the specific link. You have to confirm that you want to go to the link, and let's say it's not an actual, direct link from a YouTube video. It's not actually going to go directly to that link. It's going to take you to a YouTube confirm page. Basically, it's an absolutely terrible fucking system, and YouTube needs to rework the card system. And they said cards would actually replace annotations a long time ago, and one thing that's actually kind of upsetting about this, sorry, I'm ranting for a moment here, is that they would say that cards would not replace annotations, and the annotations would not go anywhere until they had every single feature that annotations had. Cards don't have that, and so, yeah. But they do work on mobile if you want to go through the entire hassle I just talked about. Now, it could be better since then. I don't ever see any creator ever use cards. Nobody that I follow uses cards. None of my peers use cards either. And so basically I haven't actually used anything. So if it's been updated, apologies if it's, if my information is outdated, but I know literally nobody that uses them. However, end screens are fairly useful because they're fairly basic. You just put in, you can have up to 4 icons or whatever, and you can end up putting up, like, let's say a video or whatever, your most recent one, relevant to the viewer, which can link other channels. So I don't necessarily do that one because I think that that's kind of a bad idea considering they're there for your channel and you kind of want to link to your own stuff because, that's just marketing. Apologies if that sounds cruel. But regardless, you can end up doing that, and you can also have it, link specific videos, which is kind of nice. However, you can't do external links again. You can have a subscribe button, but it always is circle. The boxes can only be so small, so basically it'll show like a thumbnail of the video. Now, one thing that I personally like to do is I like to show gameplay from said video, and YouTube said they're working on trying to get that to work, which actually would be really cool, having the video and video thing. However, you can only customize them, and they have to be boxes. Like, they can only be a small certain size. They can only be a certain size when they're, enlarged. So basically, it doesn't work for my style of content, and it's not going to work for a lot of people's style of content, and it also doesn't fill the gap that's going to be missing with annotations, because annotations are useful not only for end screens, which it seems like YouTube's targeting the end screen sort of system, because that's what everyone uses cards and the end screen system for, because that's what they're designed for. They're for the sort of end screen thing, at the end of the video where everyone's like, comment, and subscribe, check out my other stuff, I'll do it in a minute. Basically, that's what they sort of targeting. And they're like, hey, by the way, we've made better systems for that. But it's so extremely limited. Now, in the future, they could end up sort of making it so that, it's a lot better, and they could end up adding in all these extra features and things like that, which I would love. Now, if cards ended up acting exactly like annotations and they worked on mobile, that'd be perfectly fine. But quite frankly, I don't care. If you're on mobile, you're going to get a suggestions thing that's going to pop up anyways because of the way the YouTube mobile app works anyways, and you're going to see the other styles of content. And I already show gameplay from the video. You can end up finding it on my channel, and yes, that sucks, but also the majority of people watching my channel are not mobile. And this is going to be the case with a lot of channels as well. They act as if everyone is within this sort of one sort of zone, and not everyone is. There are a lot of different types of content on YouTube, and they should be making it so that everyone has a useful sort of tool to end up making this sort of content. And the part that bothers me is making a video takes a very, very long time. At least, my styles of content. And so these topic videos, they don't take that long. They do take a few hours to make, but at the same time, if I make an error in one of these, I don't want to have to go through and rebuild it and re-edit it and re-upload it, because one, that's going to make it look awkward on my channel. It's also going to ruin my kind of search results rankings as well, and it's also not very nice to the viewers as well, because it's going to be like, oh, they upload a new video, oh, never mind, it's the same video, and it's going to cause burnout and all this other types of stuff, and it causes a lot of problems. I would rather just have an annotation be like, oh, by the way, I screwed up this, like, let's say I screwed up the date or something like that, and be like, oh, well, I don't know the actual date, and so here's the correct date in the annotation. Now, you can leave things like comments, but the thing is, not everyone can see a comment. An annotation shows up right on the screen. It'll say like, hey, there it is. It'll pop up. It's very noticeable, and everyone will be able to get that information. But even if you do leave it in the comments, which I've actually seen this from different styles of content as well, to where it's like, they'll make the correction in the comments and somebody won't see it in the comments. And they'll make another comment and be like, by the way, you were wrong on this. And it's like, yeah, I know, which is fine. But people get hostile about it, which is kind of hilarious. But yeah, so it's just like, I don't see why YouTube is doing this. I think YouTube is doing it just to try and push their whole end cards and card system, because even though annotations have dropped by 70%, that's not enough for them. They want it to go down to 100%, and they want everyone using these end screens, which, I mean, end screens are awesome. And I liked end screens, but I never ended up using them because you can't use annotations and end screens at the same time. And so I always use annotations because if I ever had a video that needed a correction, I didn't want to have to go redo the end screen. I also designed my end slate and everything for the annotation system, which I actually, you know, we'll see it. If you haven't actually watched anything else on my channel, you'll end up seeing it in a bit here, but basically I have little bits of video playing so you can actually see what the video looks like, and it gives the whole description of what it is, and then it shows some media links, which I won't have media links on the end screen anymore, and you won't be able to click on those videos because basically annotations don't work anymore. But there you go. So yeah, it just sucks. And for me specifically, I hate it for the simple fact that YouTube lied to us, which I know people are going to be like, YouTube lies all the time, which they kind of do, and some people will be kind of being like, you know, justice warriors and everything like that, and they'll be like, oh no, they never lied, they just made incorrect information or something like that. I don't know. I've heard a lot of people trying to justify this, and there's literally no point besides pushing another system. But the problem is there's nothing to replace annotations at the moment. You don't break down a bridge when there's no other way across the river, because then you're going to lock everyone on one side. Let's say their home is on the other side of the river. Well, now you're just going to have a bunch of people drowning trying to drive their car through the river. So yeah, basically YouTube is overreacting or they're trying to make a move without having the pieces to make the move. So yeah, I don't see any benefits to this whatsoever. I think that it'll be cool for people that in the future, I'm sure, for people that aren't already using end screens, they might actually be pushed to use end screens and be like, oh, this is a lot easier, because it is a lot easier. But at the same time, for us that actually like annotations and actually want annotations to exist, why don't they just make it work on mobile? Which, quite frankly, it probably works off of Flash, which some people have been saying it works off Flash. It doesn't. It works on HTML5. They did that transition like 2 years ago. And so basically the entire thing, like all annotations work through HTML5 now. It just doesn't work on mobile because of the way they do links on mobile. So there you go. So yeah, anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Sorry this video was a little bit on the ranty side. It's very upsetting because I designed things specifically for it. You can see my end screen now. Basically, yeah, it's designed in a way that it was built for annotations, and I kind of like the idea. End screens don't fit my need because I do this whole thing to where, you know, the end screen's up and I keep talking. I keep adding content to the video, and that, you know, actually promotes like, hey, you know, you can see these things on the side. It actually gives you time to look at it while also having something else to listen to and actually having relevant information in this little tiny bit, which most people don't do that. And I think that I'm sort of an edge case, and I think most people that need annotation still is sort of an edge case, but at the same time, But anyways, if you end up checking out my other types of content, some of my content still has annotations in it. You can end up checking out my Impressions review series. The most recent one I did was for Senran Kagura Estival Versus. And that is actually a really fun sort of hack and slash Dynasty Warriors game, but it mostly focuses on this sort of, I guess, character versus character thing, and almost has some like fighter game elements, which is actually really, really fun and interesting, and I enjoy the game a lot. It does have a ton of fan service though, so if you don't like fan service, you might not enjoy it too much, but hey, you can also end up checking out my other types of videos, and like I said, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Click on the new end screen thing, because that's all I got for you. Sorry. And I will see you guys in the next video. Also, game in the background, I almost forgot to mention it. Game in the background has been Assault Android Cactus. I'm really terrible at that. But yeah, it's been Assault Android Cactus. I did a review of it. You can end up checking out that review as well. Anyways, now I'll see you guys in the next video. Hopefully. Maybe it'll be the Assault Android Cactus video or Senran Kagura. Please click on one of them.